REED-BBS, BBS, Blackbird Sugar, Bachelor's in Boxing Studies, Televisión, Fred Sanford of the Fistic Arts. Collectively, the boxing world still a little bit tipsy, a little bit wobbly, probably not safe to drive, still caught up in the Joshua Ruiz 2 hangover. I get it. No problem. We good. We got a top-ranked doubleheader this coming Saturday. Terrence Crawford versus Mean Machine. Richard Comey versus Teofimo effing Lopez. This Friday, we got Virgil Ortiz Jr. You know what I'm saying? So, with all of that just happened and will happen, it seems like JERMALL CHARLO versus Dennis Hogan, Chris Eubank versus Matt Korobov got kind of it was a bit under the radar, you know, the Showtime doubleheader featuring both of those fights. And it was a good card. It was a good, well-matched card. Speaking of matched, I had the privilege, the honor to match the seventh fight of JERMALL CHARLO's career. It was August 28th, 2010 in Galveston, Texas. The opponent was Dion Nash. You know, just certainly wasn't anyone that paved the way for him to become who he was, but it's just a good footnote in what I've done as REED-BBS. But yeah, he was Charlo. It was in Barclays, the fight itself. So he was on air with StephenASmith. Got the Barclays love. The Brooklyn Bed-Stuy, live from Bedford-Stuyvesant, the livest one. Representing BK to the fullest. Gets up, pull it. You know, he got all that type of Biggie Smalls type love. Not quite to that level, but you know what I'm saying. Charlo didn't disappoint. KO Dennis Hogan in the 7th round. Now, Charlo calls himself a boxer puncher. I think of him, and yeah, I'm nitpicking. I think of him more as a puncher boxer. Now, granted, my man is technically sound. He's defensively responsible. He jabs, he feints, he counters well. He's patient, he's relaxed. But to me, his true effectiveness and impressiveness is largely predicated on JERMALL CHARLO's power. Puncher boxer. That's what I'm trying to say. With that said, my man's got probably the best uppercuts in the game currently. And he can get you with both hands. He dropped Hogan with a left uppercut, landed a multitude of right uppercuts on Brandon Adams. He dropped J-Rock Williams with a huge right uppercut, and then ended the fight with a left one. And the crazy thing is, Charlo throws, I call it a hooker cut. It's like a hybrid. It's like half left hook or half hook, especially with his left hand, half left hook, half uppercut. Virgil Ortiz is one of his co-trainers. My man, Handsome Hector Beltran, he calls it a upper hook. An upper hook. The prettiest hooker cut upper hook I've seen was Roy Jones in the rematch with Montel Griffin. Roy actually feinted it. It was like a long, looping left hooker cut. He feinted it about 30 seconds prior and then whop! Just caught Montel with it, and that was all she wrote. Donovan Razor Ruddock, he had a good one as well. With it was a left hooker cut. He actually nicknamed his shit the fucking Smash. And most prominently, he got Michael Dokes with that. It's been used throughout history. It's a valuable tool to have in your toolbox. Now, Charlo, he's being frozen out and ignored by DAZN, Canelo Alvarez, Triple G, Demetrius Andrade, Billy Joe Saunders, Daniel Jacobs. And he's openly compared his situation to Terrence Crawford and PBC, which is a very valid comparison. And from Charlo's perspective, he said this on the StephenASmith show, Hey, man, Floyd got everybody thinking about business instead of thinking, let's fight. That's an issue that has definitely permeated the game recently. But want to get into Chris Eubank Jr., he technically KO'd Matt Korobov, kind of like Carlos Bojorquez KO'd Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker. Korobov won the first round clearly, and then he injured his shoulder, landing a southpaw cross, a la Sweet Pea Whitaker against Bojorquez, which led to a TKO win for Chris Eubank Jr. This was Eubanks' Jr.'s his U.S. debut. He moved down from 68. His last fight was against James DeGale, moving down from 68, and he actually looked small at 60. To me, he just did. He looked smaller than Korobov, who's not a tall. He's a thick guy, but not tall at all. Throughout the promotion, before the fight, during the build-up, Eubank Jr., he name-dropped Charlo. He reportedly told sources he'd face Charlo in 2020. And I guess by face Charlo, he means he'll lose to Charlo, because I just don't see what he thinks he can do. He was well on his way to losing to Korobov. From the outset, that pairing didn't make sense to me at all from my matchmaking background. And the first round showed me what was going to happen. It really did. Chris Eubank brings me into my a theory I've held for a minute, a father-son, daddy-daughter boxing DNA theory. If daddy was great, then son-daughter won't be great. If daddy sucked, then son-daughter, they could be great. Not necessarily will be, but they could be. You remember the names: Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., pothead; Aaron Pryor Jr., Stefan Pryor, Ronald Hearns, Jorge Paez Jr., Hector Camacho Jr., Frida Foreman, Jackie Frazier, Lyle, whatever her name was, Connor Ben, there's a multitude of them. In each of those instances, their fathers were great fighters, and none of them were great fighters. That's just what it is. Now, let's flip it. Okay. Roy Jones Sr., 13 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw, KO'd 5 times, most notably by Marvelous Marvin Hagler. Felix Tito Trinidad Sr., 8 wins, 8 losses, 4 by KO, most notably by Salvador Sanchez. Neither of those men had noteworthy careers at all, and they birthed 2 of the greatest fighters in boxing history, Roy Jones Jr. and Felix Tito Trinidad. There are some outliers in the midst. Corey Spinks, his father Leon, his uncle Michael. Well, Corey was a pretty good fighter. Leon could have been a very good fighter, and Michael was the only great one in the bunch. You got Wilfredo Vasquez Sr. and Jr. Sr. was the 3-weight world champion. Jr. held a title at 122, which was one of the 3 weight classes his pops had a belt at. But, neither of them were at that, like the type of level I'm talking, like a Roy Jones Jr. or your dad with shit type of level. Layla Ali, yeah. People want to say, oh, Ali, and then Layla was this and that. Look, Layla Ali was not ambitious. She was an opportunist. She was fine in the motherfucker. I ain't gonna lie, she was fine in the motherfucker. But she was an opportunist. I got 2 words for Layla Ali: and wolf. Period. Floyd Sr. Floyd Sr. fought Sugar Ray Leonard early. Ray Leonard was like 13-0. And he had like 12 more fights before he fought Wilfred Benitez. Senior, he was like a street dude as much as he was a fighter. And I don't know if the street life impacted his career or what, but he wasn't a great fighter. He was a great trainer, but not a great fighter. So that's another outlier type of example. Roger Mayweather was the best of the older Mayweathers in terms of Jeff and Floyd Sr. and Roger. Roger was the one. He was the great one of that mix. Kind of like Michael Spinks was the best one, the great one of the Spinks mix. But yeah, man, beyond that, getting into Chris Eubank Jr. His father was very influential, great fighter, tough dude, moved up several weights, had supreme confidence when few, if any, fighters had it. Heavily influenced ring entrances and shit. His son just hasn't been that same type of dude. Just not, there's really no comparison. And they fought the same fucking weight classes. So, my father-son theory, if the father was the shit, son ain't gonna be shit. If the father wasn't shit, then the son can be the shit. REED-BBS, BBS. Blackbird Sugar, Bachelor's in Boxing Studies. Televisión, Fred Sanford of the Fistic Arts. When all is said and done, there's nothing left to say or do.